Okay, good morning. So today we're going to start on a project that I did with some of my students already, and they enjoyed it, although it's challenging. So I'm going to go over the steps in a tutorial, and I also am going to post like a instruction sheet under pages, and you can look for that. You could print that out if you need some additional assistance. So this is my radial name design. If you look at it right here, what can I show you? Well, you can see it is the name Johnson repeated. When you open it up, because they connect to each other, it becomes just a really cool design. And I did this 2 times. One time I pointed the name towards the arrow. I'll show you what I mean by that. The other time I pointed it away. And I got 2 totally different patterns. So students, if you've already done this, and I had you do it with your name pointing down, you can do it again, this time with your name pointing up, and you'll get a different pattern. So here's how I started it. I started it by taking a piece of computer paper, I'll tilt this down, and I have to turn this into a square. So for those of you who have done snowflakes with me, you probably remember this step. You line this up to this edge, and this fold matters. All of these folds matter. So you can't rush this till it's really flush the whole way. It's really touching that edge the whole way. And then press down. Okay? And now you know what is not part of the square, because this was the shorter side. We put it on the longer side. If we cut off the excess from the longer side, then we'll have a square. So we cut this part off. And now this is trash, and we won't need the scissors anymore. And the rest of this is the fold. So you can fold it again here. Again, this fold matters. Wait till you really have it looking good. Okay? And now you want to open this back up. And you want to fold it for a square, to get it down to a square. So fold this over to be a rectangle. And then fold this over to be a square. Now, last is just to put this back into a little triangle. Now, starting with this triangle, you're going to put your name in bubble letters across here. And this is difficult to do if you don't know how to do bubble letters. So what bubble letters are is basically you take a letter and you just turn it into like a not a three-dimensional, but a shape, right? So you would practice this first with your name's letters before you go doing it on here if you struggle with this. These are just some examples. They're not great, they're not perfect, who cares, right? Like, it's meant to be fun. And so basically you would make the letter and then make another parallel side to the letter and then give it a top and bottom. Now, if I'm doing it in pencil, I would be able to erase, and I have a pencil right here, which is a bummer. So what don't I have? I don't have W. So this is W, right? But to turn it into a bubble letter, it needs to have another part to it, and then close it up. if you play with your name first, if you play around with your name first and get the hang of this next step will be easier, because the next step is putting your name on this. Now let me show you how I figure this out. I did Johnson, right? Johnsson. It's 7 letters. So if I'm pointing my name down towards the arrow, which is how I showed the students the first time, the middle letter has to go in the middle. Makes sense? Then I would put 3 on one side and 3 on the other. Same thing with, 5, middle, 2 and 2, 9, middle, 4 and 4. That does start to get to be a lot. I told students they could use a nickname if their name is really long. If you have an even number of letters, like 6, your first 3 and your second 3 will match up in the middle. So let me do this. I'm going to have to do it upside down, which is going to be interesting. J-O-H. So my middle is going to be an N. So I'm going to put this part of the N, that part of the N, and then this part of the N, and that part of the N. And I want you to notice that I'm not closing it off. I'm leaving it open at the top and bottom, because that way when we go to trace it, we can connect these as shapes. So my H is going to go here. My O, I'm working backwards because I'm working out from the center. You don't have to work backwards. I'm just trying to show you how I space it. And then once again, I am not closing any of these. The S, I'll do that in a couple parts because I tend to put that in the wrong spot. There we go. Good enough. I tend to make, it's a long story. I tend to make my S wrong. And another N. Alright, I hope you can see what I've done. So I made bubble letters, and I didn't close them at the top and bottom. Now, the next step is so you only have to do this once. I did it in Sharpie so you could see it. I strongly recommend that you do it in pencil until you get it right, and then to go over it with Sharpie. And I want to show you how you're going to do this. So now, the key is to trace this exact bubble letter arrangement each time. Don't draw it again. You actually don't want to draw it again. You want to trace it so that it's the exact same each time. And you'll flip your paper so that you can see. Let me see if there's any way to get you to see that. It's hard to see it on the screen, I admit. Let's see it a little tiny bit. But in reality, I can see this through the paper. But I would use a window to trace this. I'd put it up against a window, and the light through the window is going to make this really visible. If you're doing this at night, you could make a light box. I had my students do that during class. Take your cell phone, put flashlight on, and then you would put it under like a piece of Tupperware, flashlight shining up, and then this on top, and you'll be able to see. Your families are not going to want Sharpie on their window, and they're not going to want Sharpie on the Tupperware. So I would do it in pencil, just to be safe, and then go over it in Sharpie, or I would put something like wax paper down so that you definitely don't get any Sharpie on anything in the house. And then you're going to trace it again and again and again. So you'll fold it and trace it here, and then you'll open this. These will both be done. you'll be able to see them both here. Trace that. You'll open this, fold it again, trace it, right? Until you have all of it traced, and it will look like this. It'll be, well, not like this, it'll be your name, but it'll be a repeated pattern. And then you can color it. It really is a lot of fun. All right, so enjoy, and I'll see you soon.